One day in your life shouldn't be a problem. One day in your life shouldn't cause you pain.
Smiling Buddha was the anchor of the Happy nightclub that was there at that area, 1951 on. And it was elegant, it was a happy place, and the people from Vancouver enjoyed it.
It was a gathering place for music and dancing and drinking.
The Smiling Buddha was a long-time supper club. It was basically a booze can. They didn't have a liquor license. So a lot of people would go there, dine and dance, and they had a good Chinese menu, and they always had a live band playing the old standards, you know.
Smiling Buddha restaurant. It was not, didn't say Smiling Buddha Tavern.
It was a shithole.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, you can't make a salesperson out of themselves either.
They were different times. Lots of nightclubs were around Vancouver. You had the Cave, later you had Izzy's, you had the Smiling Buddha. A lot of these clubs have all disappeared because nightclubs by themselves went out of vogue.
Smiling Buddha. You know, I can remember it was a dancing place, music. Dean Leung, Fei Leung, Harvey Lowe.
So Albert Kwan and Harvey Lowe came back to Canada, and because they had such a good time with the Shanghai nightlife, so they thought, well, why don't we open a mini nightclub? In Vancouver, there isn't any. We will serve Chinese food, and we have dine and dance, and with the orchestra. And that started in 1950. Talks off. It came into reality between 1951 to 1952.
How about Harvey Lowe? Harvey was an exceptional guy. He was the first Chinese Canadian to have his own radio show. It was called The Call of China. It was on every week on CJOR at 600 on the dial. And the reason I knew that is because that's where I started, CJOR. But Harvey was amazing. He was the world's yo-yo champion. And people go, what?
I knew Harvey Lowe very well. I know his wife and his first wife in Shanghai. I met Harvey when we were in Shanghai. He had two radio stations in Shanghai at that time, 1947.
But the Buddha was a kind of a place where you went in for a drink, but yet different musicians around town got their first experience there.
If you didn't make it at Smiling Buddha, believe me, you weren't going to make it anywhere else.
Ron and his three-piece orchestra, and they would play the old songs like, you know, beautiful song. It's wonderful. It's the loveliest night of the year. Waltzes, foxtrot, rumba. Samba wasn't as popular. Mostly rumba, foxtrot, quick waltz, slow waltz.
That part of town was always buzzing in the daytime and nighttime because people can go down and they can actually go to a restaurant in Chinatown or a restaurant down in Hastings Street and Woodward's and what do you call it, the Only Seafood. You know, they had all these tremendous suppers and lunches, and it was still safe at the time.
So during that period of the 50s and 60s, changing to the early 70s, the Smiling Buddha have changed enormously, which you know, and right until it got to be such a dump.
The time I was going down there was about 1962. I just started to learn how to play in around 1960 and 61. And most of the musicians that worked there were the bands that were playing these, what we used to call the dance circuit, you know, like Capitol Hill, Garden Ballroom, Clinton Hall.
So I went to Smiling Buddha. I played there for 2 months of my arrival time in 1964, right after graduation.
March 63, I started playing there, and I probably played there on and off. Quite a bit I played there till probably December 63.
Format was the band would play an instrumental set, then they'd do a floor show. And the floor show had an MC, and sometimes the MC would be Teddy Felton, who's passed on, or Ronnie Small, or even Marty Gillen, or Joni, and they always closed off with a stripper, you know, and that would be Miss Lovey, or Lady Scarlet, or Miss Lulu Turner, who was, or Lottie the Body, who was always around.
Now, Smiling Buddha, I must talk to you about the entertainers that came into the Smiling Buddha. It was freaks and geeks and cripples, and I do not and I will not change that.
Well, the original Epics was there with Bob Kidd.
Daiquiri St. John, who was a man.
And George Chapless played there.
He had titties.
Always a three-piece band backing up the stripper and the singer and the MC. Sometime to be a magician or a comedian.
Oh, little Samson, man. He was too much. He was a midget. He was this high.
Some of the main stars of Vancouver from the old CBC show, when they were short of work, they would go down there and do a floor show.
The boy could dance and he could sing. He was really something else. And he had a dick that was twice as big as mine. Soft.
Singers like Rael Johnson would fill in when it got real tight.
It was the floor show. Everything from the burlesque to the strippers to the singers to the freaks, except for the musicians who were behind on a little stage, not much bigger than that from the dance floor.
No contracts, no booking agents, no handshakes, you know, and they always paid.
Didn't pay very much money. It was $25 each a week. So for a four-piece band, 6 nights a week, he paid $100 each. And no, he paid $100 for the whole band.
Right.
So
the food I couldn't eat there because I saw worms and I saw bugs. And the thing is, when I saw the cook picking up the stuff that he had dropped and put it back from the floor back into the pot, and that was an accident because I was just going to the bathroom.
They always had this thing that when you came to the door, if you paid your admission, they'd give you what they call a meal ticket. And the meal ticket was really interesting. You got a bowl of curry with some roti or rice, or for another 50 cents you can get a pork chop. And we used to eat a lot of our meals down there.
one night we were playing in there. On one side was a bunch of loggers that were drinking. You know what loggers, rednecks are like. On the other side were some other people, maybe a little bit different color or language. Anyways, the loggers and the other people on the other side of the club started throwing beer bottles across. So all us guys in the band, we took the left exit around into the kitchen and hid in the kitchen.
3 or 4 fights a night was normal.
Or any musician who's on that stage looking out at what's going on. And as the evening progressed, should I say the morning progressed, because it really got going about 1 o'clock, you know, it got a little dangerous, yeah.
The whole time I played at the Buddha, I never saw any drugs, okay, which is good.
The sign is very special, very special. Albert has a younger son was born, Shubi, and we were kidding that he liked the Smiling Buddha. So why not we have a Smiling Buddha sign? And that's how, through a lot of discussions and designs and plan, it became that design that Albert chose.
When Lachman Dodge took it over, it was still a booze can. A distant cousin of mine had a construction company down there. He told me Lachman spent $20,000 in those days to upgrade it, to raise the bar so we could get a liquor license.
I mean, once you saw it, you never forgot it. It was like indelible in your brain. And thank God they've saved it over at the Vancouver Museum.
The fact that the Buddha has survived and in fact lives again here in the museum is a sort of long and complicated story. We think that the sign was built and installed at the same time that the Smiling Buddha Cafe opened in the early 1950s. and it hung on the building through the various permutations of the cafe, its successful days, its sort of declining days in the 70s, and then its rebirth in the 1980s as a venue for punk bands.
I don't know the exact story, but I know a bunch of band people wanted to save that sign. And was it Loverboy or was it BTO?
I think the sign came up after the Reynolds. Yeah, and I'm not sure if, no, I might be wrong. He got it from Neon Sign. I think he bought the sound, like, bought it outright instead of leasing it.
Oh, 5440, you're right. I'll be okay. No, you're right. The 5440 saved that sign, and thank God they did.
5440, as everybody knows, who really recognized the value of this sign and negotiated to purchase it and use it as the sort of landmark centerpiece for their Smiling Buddha Cafe tour.
It was just a piece of metal. All the glass was broken. It was all smashed to bits. Obviously, years of wear and tear on it, and it was quite banged up.
Getting that sign up there, it looks so lovely, and it involved a lot of sweat and some pretty foul language.
Wallace Neon was the neon company that been building all those neon signs. It was Wally Neon Signs and Neons, then it became Neon Signs.
The two big companies were Neon Products and Wallace Neon. And Wallace Neon, I would say, mastered the creative, artistic flair, creating some of the most memorable signs, including the Flying Pig, which is also on East Hastings Street, and the Smiling Buddha, amongst really two of their great, great signs.
Walking into the Smiling Buddha was like walking into a time machine. It was like something out of a Humphrey Bogart movie. And I was a young guy, my God, I was only like 20, 21. And I don't know what it is. We don't learn our own history. And it saddens me. So, you know, the reason I'm talking to you about the Smiling Buddha, he was a part of that history. Good, bad, indifferent, ugly, you know, tawdry, whatever. It didn't matter. It was part, we all went there, we knew about it. And yet nobody knows about it today.
I challenge you. You go across Canada and ask you to give a story as I'm telling you now. Nobody. Because they're not here anymore. And not involved in it. Yes, they know of stories of the Smiling Buddha or attended the Smiling Buddha, but the actual establish and how it started the Smiling Buddha Cabaret. And I'm very proud and honored and very humble to tell you who's who, because the memory is very fond in my heart. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to tell you, which is something that is to be preserved.